What if a simple knock at your door on September 23 isn't ordinary, but a test meant to shift your destiny? Many will answer without thinking, and that one choice could cost everything. Chosen ones, this message reveals the truth behind the door and why protecting your space on this date is more important than ever. There are certain days in the calendar that carry more weight than others, not because of superstition, but because of alignment. September 23 is one of those days. It arrives at a crossroads in the year, when the earth itself is shifting from one season into another. For many, it feels like just another date, but for the chosen ones, this transition is a moment of spiritual testing and clarity. Think about it, when light and darkness are balanced almost equally, the world is symbolically reminding us that every soul must decide which side they stand on. Days like this are not accidents, they're markers, signals that something greater is moving. Numerologically, the number 23 has long been tied to change, challenge, and the revealing of hidden truths. Those who study patterns often see 23 as a number that stirs transformation. It's not a day for passivity, it's a day when the atmosphere feels charged, as if unseen hands are arranging pieces on a board. When you're one of the chosen, this kind of day is not about random chance. It's about how ready you are to respond to what life places in front of you. Spiritually, September 23 falls close to the autumn equinox, a time historically seen as a gateway. Ancient traditions often treated equinox days as sacred because they represented balance, a pause before the tilt of power shifted toward either more light or more darkness. For chosen ones, this balance is personal. It mirrors the constant struggle inside the soul to stay aligned with purpose even when chaos surrounds them. If you've ever felt unusual intensity around this time of year, unexpected confrontations, emotional heaviness, or even sudden moments of clarity, it's no coincidence. These aren't just seasonal blues, they're signals that a threshold is opening. What makes September 23 unique this year is how it collides with broader cycles of energy. We live in times when spiritual awakenings are happening on a mass level. People are becoming more aware of energy shifts, synchronicities, and signs they once ignored. That's why this day is not one to treat casually. For the chosen ones, it's almost like a spiritual exam. Your reactions, your choices, even your ability to stay calm when distractions knock at your door are all being observed. And let's be real, tests don't always look like tests. Sometimes they show up in ordinary ways: a person visiting when you least expect it, an unexpected phone call, or an offer that seems tempting but doesn't sit right in your spirit. On September 23, these coincidences carry more weight. Every distraction has the potential to redirect your focus at the very moment you're supposed to be centered. That's why awareness is key. The date itself won't harm you, but your choices on this date can shape what comes next. So as September 23 approaches, remind yourself, this isn't about fear, it's about focus. It's about knowing that when the world pauses in balance, the chosen ones are called to stand firm. If you approach this day with discernment, it can become a moment of empowerment, a reminder that you are aligned with a greater plan, even when the atmosphere feels heavy with hidden meanings. Doors are more than just wood, hinges, and handles, they are symbols. Every time you stand before a door, you're facing a threshold. You're about to leave one environment and enter another, to close off what's behind you and step into what lies ahead. Spiritually, doors represent decisions, opportunities, and the boundaries between safety and danger. When you open a door, you're not only letting someone into your physical space, you're also granting access to your energy, your atmosphere, and in many ways, your life. Throughout Scripture, doors are used as powerful metaphors. In Revelation 3:20, Christ says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him." This paints a picture of a divine presence waiting for an invitation, but it also carries a warning. Just as God can knock, so can other spirits. Not every knock at your door comes from heaven. Some are tests, some are traps, and some are attempts to enter through your consent. The spiritual world often operates on agreement, and a door is the clearest picture of consent. Consider the parable of the wise and foolish virgins in Matthew 25. The door became the dividing line between those who were ready and those who were not. Once it was closed, no amount of pleading could change the outcome. This shows us that doors are not just about access, they're about timing, readiness, and discernment. For the chosen ones, this means every door you open or close reflects your alignment with purpose. Beyond scripture, many cultures view doors as gateways. Ancient traditions believed that entryways held spiritual significance, marking the boundary between the protected sacred space of the home and the unpredictable energy of the outside world. That's why many households throughout history placed symbols, blessings, or protective markings over their doors. The message was clear: what passes through here has power to shape what unfolds inside. When we think about doors in our daily lives, it's easy to forget the unseen meaning. We rush to answer without considering who or what we are allowing in. Yet spiritually, a door is a checkpoint. Imagine it as the guard post of your destiny. If you, as the guardian, say yes without discernment, you may unknowingly invite chaos into your sanctuary. But when you pause, assess, and choose wisely, you're exercising authority over your atmosphere. On September 23, the symbolism of the door becomes even more important. Remember, this isn't just about someone physically knocking, it's about moments, opportunities, and influences that present themselves, waiting for your permission. Not every open door is a blessing. Sometimes it's a test disguised as convenience. That's why chosen ones must recognize the spiritual weight of doors, not just as objects, but as symbols of choice, timing, and protection. One of the things many chosen ones notice, but often can't explain, is how they feel different after being around certain people. Sometimes you leave a conversation feeling lighter, inspired, and at peace. Other times, you walk away heavy, drained, or even anxious without any clear reason. This is not coincidence, it's energy transfer. Every human interaction involves an exchange, and whether we realize it or not, we are constantly passing energy back and forth. Think about it like this: just as a room can feel warm or cold depending on who's in it, your spirit also shifts depending on who enters your space. When someone knocks at your door, they aren't just bringing their body, they're bringing their entire atmosphere. Their worries, their intentions, their hidden motives, even the unseen spiritual weight they carry, it all enters with them. And when you're one of the chosen ones, you are more sensitive to these shifts. You don't just notice them, you absorb them. This is why opening your door to the wrong person, especially on spiritually significant days, is more dangerous than it seems. Imagine you've spent the morning praying, meditating, or centering yourself. You're aligned, calm, and ready for the day. Then a sudden knock interrupts you. Someone steps in, and within minutes, your peace is gone. Maybe they start venting negativity, complaining, or gossiping. Maybe they're friendly but secretly envious. Either way, their atmosphere is now mingling with yours, and you feel it. What was once harmony now feels heavy. That shift, that's energy transfer. Even science hints at this truth. Studies show that emotions are contagious. People catch stress, joy, or anxiety from those around them. Spiritually, this is magnified. The chosen ones operate like amplifiers. We magnify what enters our space. If someone with darkness steps into your sanctuary, their presence multiplies, and before you realize it, your clarity is clouded. The danger is not always obvious. Energy thieves don't always shout negativity. Sometimes they come subtly, with smiles, casual conversation, or small requests that seem harmless. Yet by opening your door, you've granted them access, and they've left an imprint. Over time, repeated visits from such people can weaken your focus, lower your spiritual defenses, and even steer you off the path meant for you. But here, the empowering part: just as negative energy transfers, so does positive. When you surround yourself with uplifting people, those who carry peace and wisdom, your energy strengthens. That's why boundaries matter so much. Protecting your space isn't about shutting the world out. It's about guarding your field so you can keep your light burning strong. On September 23, when the spiritual atmosphere is already charged, you must be especially careful. Not every knock deserves an answer, because not every presence deserves your energy. Remember, your peace is precious, your focus is sacred, and your spirit deserves protection. One of the enemy's most effective tools isn't destruction, it's distraction. Most chosen ones won't fall for obvious traps. You're too aware, too guarded, and too seasoned for that. So instead, the tactics are subtler. They come as interruptions, small delays, and seemingly harmless moments that pull your focus away from what truly matters. The strategy is simple. If the enemy can't stop you outright, he will attempt to slow you down. Think about how much power a single distraction has. You might wake up with clarity, ready to step into your assignment, when suddenly there's a knock at the door, a message on your phone, or an unexpected problem tossed into your lap. At first, it feels minor, but minutes turn into hours, and the focus you had is gone. What was supposed to be a day of progress turns into a day of reacting. The blessing you were preparing to step into slips a little further away. That's the quiet but devastating effect of distraction. Scripture gives us a picture of this in the story of Nehemiah. As he rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem, his enemies tried to lure him away with endless meetings. They weren't planning to kill him outright, they just wanted to stop the work from being completed. Nehemiah recognized the trap, replying, "I am doing a great work and cannot come down." That's the wisdom every chosen one needs. Not every knock, call, or request deserves a response. Distractions often come disguised as urgency. A friend just has to talk right now. A neighbor just stopped by for a second. But those seconds add up, and while you're pulled into their moment, you miss your own. It's like death by 1,000 cuts, not one big blow, but a steady drip of interruptions that bleed your time and energy away. The strategy of distractions also works because it feels harmless. After all, what's the danger in a quick chat, a short visit, or answering the door for a moment? But when those small distractions stack up, especially on spiritually significant days, they pull you away from the divine alignment you were meant to walk in. You might not notice the impact immediately, but over time it becomes clear. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you if he can keep you busy. This is why chosen ones must treat focus as sacred. Your time, your peace, and your energy are not limitless. When you give them away carelessly, you weaken your ability to hear God's direction clearly. On September 23, when the spiritual atmosphere is heightened, distractions will likely increase, not because they matter, but because you matter. The more important your mission, the more relentless the interruptions. Remember this truth: not every knock deserves an answer, not every voice deserves your time, and not every distraction deserves your focus. Protecting your attention is protecting your destiny. When we think about danger, we often picture it coming from strangers, from people outside our circle, outsiders with obvious bad intentions. But for the chosen ones, the real tests often come closer to home. Familiar faces, the people you know, trust, or even love, can sometimes be the greatest source of distraction or sabotage, not because they always mean harm, but because they carry influence. Influence is powerful, and when misused, it can lead you astray faster than any enemy ever could. The Bible gives us countless examples. Judas wasn't a stranger, he was one of the 12. Delilah didn't approach Samson with a sword, she came with affection. Even Peter, who loved Christ, once spoke words out of alignment with God's will, and Jesus had to sharply correct him. The lesson is clear. The tests that matter most rarely come from obvious enemies. They come from people who already have access to your heart. Why is this so dangerous? Because familiarity disarms us. When a stranger knocks, you pause, you hesitate, you evaluate. But when it's someone you know, the door swings open without question. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort can dull discernment. That's when the enemy slips in, not through intimidation, but through trust. Sometimes it isn't intentional betrayal. A friend might bring their negativity into your space. A family member might show up with doubt, speaking against the very dream God planted in you. A colleague might casually plant seeds of fear or discouragement. They may not even realize they're being used as vessels of distraction, yet their presence still shifts your energy, still pulls you off course. Other times, the danger is deliberate. Envy, jealousy, or hidden resentment can lead someone close to you to sabotage your peace. They may disguise it with politeness, but spiritually, they come to weaken your guard. The hardest part is that these individuals often carry a smile while holding unseen daggers. And because they are familiar, their influence can cut deeper than any stranger ever could. For chosen ones, the lesson is not to isolate or mistrust everyone, it's to sharpen discernment. You must learn to separate love from access. You can love people while also setting boundaries. You can respect someone while also recognizing that not every moment is the right moment to let them into your space. Protecting your destiny sometimes means saying, "Not today," even to those closest to you. On September 23, when distractions and spiritual tests intensify, be mindful that the knock at your door may not come from an enemy in disguise, but from someone you recognize. That's what makes the test harder. Will you open without discernment simply because the face is familiar, or will you pause and guard your atmosphere? Remember, loyalty to your calling must always come before loyalty to comfort. Have you ever noticed how a knock at the door instantly demands your attention? It doesn't matter what you're doing, you could be eating, praying, or working, and suddenly your focus is pulled to that sound. That's not an accident. Urgency is one of the oldest psychological tools used to bypass discernment. It forces quick reactions before you've had the chance to think, reflect, or pray. For the chosen ones, this is one of the most common traps. Urgency creates pressure. It whispers, if you don't act right now, you'll miss out. It convinces you that waiting isn't an option. This is the same tactic marketers use when they say, limited time only, or act fast before it's gone. It's designed to override patience and push you into decisions that benefit someone else, not you. Spiritually, the enemy works the same way. A sudden knock, a rushed message, an unexpected request, all of these are crafted to pull you into immediate reaction. And when you react without reflection, you open doors you may later regret. Look at how Eve was tempted in the garden. The serpent didn't just present the fruit, he created urgency around the idea that she was missing something, that she needed to act in that moment. That's the psychology of urgency, convincing you that delay equals loss. Yet wisdom says the opposite. Wisdom waits. Wisdom discerns. Wisdom understands that what is truly meant for you will never expire. Urgency also manipulates fear. Think of the last time someone interrupted you with, "This is important, I need you now." Maybe it was a friend, a coworker, or even a family member. The tone, the pressure, it makes you feel as though saying no would cause harm. But the truth is, most so-called emergencies are nothing more than distractions in disguise. And even when something does require attention, you still have the right to pause and ask, is this aligned with my spirit? Should I open this door right now? On September 23, the test may come exactly this way, not as a long, drawn-out temptation, but as a sudden, urgent interruption designed to pull you out of focus. That's why one of the greatest spiritual skills you can develop is the pause. The pause is powerful. It's the moment where urgency loses its grip and clarity returns. When you pause, you give yourself room to breathe, to pray, and to sense whether the knock is divine or deceptive. The chosen ones must remember this. Urgency is not always holy. God's timing is never rushed. If something demands your instant reaction without peace, it is likely not from Him. Guard your time, guard your door, and never let urgency force you into decisions that compromise your destiny. Opening a door seems like the simplest of actions. A knock comes, you answer. But spiritually, that simple act carries enormous weight. Every door you open is a choice, and every choice invites something into your space, peace or chaos, blessing or distraction, clarity or confusion. When you open without discernment, you're saying yes without knowing what you're truly agreeing to. That's where the danger lies. In spiritual terms, a door is not just physical, it's a threshold. To open it is to grant access. Think of it like signing a contract. You may not read all the fine print, but once your name is written, the agreement is binding. When you let someone cross your threshold without prayer, intuition, or awareness guiding you, you sign an invisible contract that allows their energy, intentions, and spirit to step into your sanctuary. History and scripture warn us of this pattern. Samson's downfall began when he gave Delilah access not only to his heart, but to his secrets. Lot's family welcomed guests into their home who brought both blessing and danger. Even in daily life, countless people have faced betrayal not from strangers breaking in, but from those they willingly allowed through the front door. The greatest vulnerabilities are rarely forced, they're invited. The danger of opening without discernment isn't always immediate. Sometimes it looks like a subtle shift in atmosphere. A person steps in, and suddenly the room feels heavier. Your focus scatters, your peace evaporates, or your energy feels drained. Other times it shows up later. Seeds of gossip, doubt, or distraction take root, and days afterward you find yourself wrestling with thoughts that didn't belong to you in the first place. That influence entered the moment you said yes. For the chosen ones, discernment is not optional, it's survival. You are carriers of light, which means darkness will always try to find a way in. And since it cannot always break through your walls, it waits for you to open the door yourself. That's why discernment is so vital. It protects you from agreements you never meant to make. On days like September 23, when spiritual atmospheres are charged, this danger increases. not because the day itself is cursed, but because it is a time of transition, testing, and heightened sensitivity. It's the perfect moment for subtle traps to appear, ordinary knocks that carry extraordinary consequences. That's why you must train yourself to pause, to ask, does this bring peace? Does this align with God's plan? If the answer is no, the safest action is to keep the door closed. Remember, not all invitations are opportunities. Some are distractions dressed in kindness. Some are assignments sent to derail your mission. When you open without discernment, you gamble with your destiny. But when you guard your door with wisdom, you protect your purpose, your peace, and your divine alignment. One of the greatest skills a chosen one can develop is discernment, the ability to tell the difference between what comes from God and what comes as a distraction. Not every opportunity is a blessing, and not every knock is divine. Some doors lead to growth and destiny, while others open straight into confusion, setbacks, or spiritual drain. Learning to recognize the difference is what separates those who walk in power from those who are constantly pulled off course. So how do you tell the difference? The first sign is peace. When God sends an invitation, it comes with a sense of calm assurance. Even if it stretches you, even if it challenges you, deep inside there's clarity, not chaos. A divine knock doesn't rush you, it waits for you. It aligns with God's timing, and it resonates with the truth already planted in your spirit. A deceptive invitation, on the other hand, carries tension. It feels urgent, heavy, or unsettling. You may hear words that sound good, but something inside feels off, like static interrupting a clear signal. That unease is not random, it's a warning. The spirit within you speaks through that discomfort, signaling that what stands at the door doesn't belong in your space. Another way to tell is through fruit. Divine invitations bear lasting fruit: growth, encouragement, wisdom, peace. Deceptive invitations may sparkle at first, but their fruit is short-lived. They leave you drained, regretful, or distracted. Think of the difference between a nourishing meal and junk food. Both fill you, but only one sustains you. Spiritually, the same principle applies. Ask yourself simple questions. Does this invitation bring me closer to purpose, or does it pull me away? Does it add clarity, or does it create confusion? Does it strengthen my faith, or weaken it? The answers reveal everything. Jesus warned that wolves often come in sheep's clothing. This means that deceptive invitations rarely look harmful at first. They may come through people you know, opportunities that look appealing, or moments that feel too good to be true. That's why discernment is essential. It allows you to see beyond appearances and into the true nature of what's being presented. On September 23, this becomes even more crucial. With spiritual energy heightened, you may find yourself presented with sudden choices, unexpected visits, or urgent calls for your attention. Some of these may truly be aligned with God, while others are nothing more than distractions wrapped in false light. Your task as a chosen one is not to fear these moments, but to pause, listen, and discern. Remember this: God's invitations bring life, peace, and alignment. The enemy's invitations bring distraction, heaviness, and delay. When you train your spirit to recognize the difference, you won't just protect your destiny, you'll walk with the confidence of someone who knows that no trap, no deception, and no distraction can take what God has already prepared for them. For many chosen ones, silence is not just comforting, it's necessary. The world is filled with noise, constant notifications, unexpected knocks, and endless demands for your attention. Yet some of the most powerful spiritual revelations only come in quiet. Silence is where the whisper of God is heard most clearly. Solitude is where distractions lose their grip and your inner compass resets. Think about the moments in Scripture when God spoke. Elijah didn't hear him in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. It was in the still, small voice. That lesson still holds true. Noise drowns clarity, but silence makes space for it. When you shut the door to unnecessary interruptions, you create a sanctuary where divine wisdom can reach you without interference. This is why September 23 is not just a day to watch who knocks at your door, it's also a day to watch what noise you allow inside. The enemy doesn't always need to send chaos in the form of people. Sometimes he uses constant chatter, unnecessary arguments, or even your own restless thoughts. Silence becomes your shield. It is not emptiness, it is alignment. Solitude has another power. It teaches you self-control. When you are comfortable in your own company, you no longer need every knock, call, or message to feel validated. You learn that your worth isn't measured by how many people want your attention, but by how aligned you are with your purpose. This is why the chosen ones are often called to seasons of isolation. God hides you not to punish you, but to strengthen you, to sharpen your discernment, and to protect your destiny from distractions that you might not yet recognize. Culturally, we are taught to always respond, to always engage, to never ignore. But spiritually, wisdom often comes in restraint. Saying no or remaining silent is not weakness, it's authority. It shows that you value your peace enough to guard it fiercely. In solitude, you realize that not every knock requires an answer, not every problem requires your involvement, and not every conversation deserves your voice. On September 23, the role of silence and solitude becomes even more significant. The spiritual atmosphere will be active, and with that activity comes noise, both external and internal. The temptation will be to engage, to react, to open the door. But the greater power may come from staying still. Treat the day as sacred, a watch day where your focus is not on who seeks your attention, but on the one who directs your path. Remember this truth: solitude is not loneliness, it's strength. Silence is not weakness, it's clarity. When you protect your quiet spaces, you protect your connection to God. And when that connection is strong, no knock, no distraction, and no deception can shake your alignment. One of the clearest ways to understand the importance of guarding your door is by looking at examples, moments where opening to the wrong person or influence led to great loss. These stories remind us that sabotage doesn't always come with a warning sign. Often, it begins with something ordinary: a conversation, an invitation, a knock. Take Samson, for instance. His downfall didn't start with an army at his door. It began with Delilah, someone he welcomed into his life. He allowed her into his heart and ultimately into the secret of his strength. What seemed like harmless intimacy became the very tool that dismantled his calling. Samson wasn't destroyed by strangers breaking in. He was undone by someone he chose to let close. That's the power of opening without discernment. Another example comes from Lot's wife. She wasn't attacked or forced. Her downfall came from turning her attention back to what God had already told her to leave behind. It wasn't a sword or an enemy that ruined her future. It was a moment of divided focus. Sabotage, again, came through a subtle choice, not a violent attack. Even in the New Testament, Judas serves as a chilling reminder. He wasn't a distant outsider. He was one of the 12, trusted enough to manage the group's money. And yet, it was through that access, through that trust, that betrayal took root. Familiarity became the doorway for destruction. History and daily life give us modern parallels too. How many leaders, visionaries, or even everyday people have been pulled off course by the wrong relationships, partnerships, or influences? A single moment of lowered guard can change the trajectory of an entire destiny. Think of entrepreneurs who trusted the wrong partner, only to see their life's work collapse. Or individuals who let gossipers and doubters into their circle, slowly losing confidence in dreams they once held with conviction. Sabotage doesn't always shout, it whispers. Perhaps you've even seen it in your own life. Maybe you let someone into your space who seemed harmless, only to find your peace unsettled and your focus shattered. Maybe you agreed to help someone at the wrong moment, and their chaos spilled into your schedule, delaying the very thing you were meant to accomplish that day. It may not seem dramatic at the time, but over and over, these small acts of sabotage accumulate into bigger detours. On September 23, these lessons matter more than ever. The enemy doesn't need to break through your defenses if you open the door willingly. That's why real-life examples remind us, sabotage is rarely obvious. It often comes in the form of trust, distraction, or misplaced compassion. Awareness is the key. If you recognize the patterns, you can break them. And instead of being derailed, you stay aligned with the destiny God prepared for you. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep love out. They are fences designed to protect what is sacred. For the chosen ones, boundaries are not just helpful, they are essential. When God has placed a calling on your life, when you are carrying a mission that requires focus and purity, you cannot allow every voice, every influence, or every demand to have unrestricted access to your space. Boundaries are the spiritual locks on the doors of your life. The enemy knows that if he cannot destroy you directly, he can attempt to wear you down slowly. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by exploiting your compassion. Chosen ones often have big hearts. They want to help, to listen, to give. But without boundaries, that very compassion becomes a weakness. Manipulators sense it. They lean on guilt, making you feel selfish for saying no. They wrap their requests in urgency, so you feel obligated to open your door. And before long, your energy is gone, your peace is disturbed, and your time is consumed by things that don't even belong to you. Healthy boundaries protect you from this trap. Saying "not today" does not make you unkind, it makes you wise. Jesus himself often withdrew from the crowds to pray in solitude, even when people were searching for him. He wasn't ignoring their needs, he was prioritizing his alignment with the Father. That is the model for the chosen ones, to realize that protecting your space is not selfish, it is stewardship. Boundaries also communicate value. When you guard your time and energy, you're declaring that your calling is too important to be wasted. You're reminding yourself and others that access to you is a privilege, not a right. And the truth is, not everyone deserves access to your atmosphere. Some people drain without giving back, some distract without building up, and some simply don't have the spiritual maturity to walk with you. That's why boundaries are not only protective, but also selective. They create space for the right relationships to flourish. On September 23, the importance of boundaries becomes even clearer. With the atmosphere spiritually charged, you may face unexpected knocks, literal or symbolic. The test is whether you'll feel pressured into opening the door or whether you'll stand firm in your boundaries. Remember, saying no doesn't mean rejecting someone as a person. It means rejecting their attempt to enter your sacred space at the wrong time. As a chosen one, you must view your energy as a divine resource. You wouldn't leave your bank account unlocked, so why would you leave your peace unprotected? Boundaries are your guardrails. They don't limit your calling, they protect it. And when you honor your boundaries, you honor the God who entrusted you with your mission. Throughout history, people have looked to the heavens for signs. The movements of the sun, moon, and stars have always carried symbolic weight, often marking seasons of transition or spiritual awakening. For the chosen ones, these cosmic alignments are not random. They are reminders that what happens above often reflects what is unfolding within. September, in particular, has long been seen as a month of endings and beginnings, a time when hidden truths surface and destiny feels closer than usual. Eclipses, for example, are powerful symbols. Spiritually, they represent moments when light and darkness overlap, when something normally visible is temporarily obscured. Many traditions view eclipses as tests, times when clarity may dim for a moment, forcing people to rely on discernment rather than sight. For the chosen ones, an eclipse is like a spiritual exam. Will you stay aligned with truth even when it feels hidden, or will you allow confusion to lead you astray? Portals are another layer to this season. These aren't mystical doorways in the sci-fi sense, but windows of heightened energy and awareness. They are moments in time when spiritual sensitivity is sharper, when decisions carry more weight, and when divine instructions flow more clearly if you are paying attention. September is known for such portals because it coincides with the equinox, a natural balancing of light and darkness. It is no accident that many of your greatest inner struggles, breakthroughs, or revelations have likely come around this time of year. September 23, in particular, sits on this threshold. It carries the vibration of change, of being tested on whether you are ready to step into the next season. For some, it will feel like a final exam. For others, it will feel like a door closing on what no longer serves them. Either way, it is not a day to live casually. It is a day of alignment, where your choices echo louder than usual. Prophetically, this alignment also reminds us of timing. God often works in cycles. Just as the earth moves through seasons, so do our souls. And every season comes with both opportunities and tests. That's why distractions seem louder around dates like September 23. They are designed to pull you away from the clarity you're meant to receive. The enemy knows that if he can get you to open the wrong door during a prophetic window, he can delay blessings meant for you. For the chosen ones, the takeaway is simple but profound. Pay attention to the signs, but don't become fearful of them. An eclipse doesn't mean danger, it means awareness. A portal doesn't mean chaos, it means opportunity. And September 23 doesn't mean disaster, it means vigilance. When you approach prophetic alignments with focus and faith, they become launch pads, not stumbling blocks. Locking a door in the physical world is easy. You turn the key, and no one can enter without permission. Spiritually, the principle is the same, but the lock is not made of metal. It's made of intention, prayer, and boundaries. To spiritually lock your door means to secure your inner space so that only what aligns with God's purpose can enter. It's not about living in fear. It's about exercising authority over your atmosphere. The first way to lock your door is through prayer. Words carry power, and when you declare that your home, your mind, and your spirit are off limits to negativity, you are setting up a shield. Simple affirmations like, "My space is covered, my energy is guarded, my destiny is protected," are not just words, they are spiritual locks. You don't need complicated rituals to claim authority, you just need consistency and faith. The second key is intentional action. Many people pray for protection, but then leave their doors wide open by entertaining toxic conversations, welcoming draining people, or giving energy to pointless distractions. Locking your spiritual door means aligning your choices with your prayers. If you've asked for peace, you must refuse entry to those who thrive on chaos. If you've asked for clarity, you must step back from voices that bring confusion. A lock is useless if you leave it unlatched. Another way to lock your door is through symbolic acts. Throughout history, people anointed their doorways, placed scriptures, or kept meaningful symbols near their entry points. These weren't empty gestures, they were declarations of ownership. They said, "This space belongs to God, and nothing contrary is allowed to cross this threshold." You can do the same in your own way, by speaking blessings over your space, keeping reminders of faith nearby, or simply pausing before opening the door to ask, "Is this from God?" Equally important is locking the mental door. Many battles don't begin at the doorstep, they begin in the mind. Negative thoughts, doubts, and temptations are like knocks that try to get your attention. If you entertain them, they move in. But if you practice discernment, replacing lies with truth and fear with faith, you close the mental door before they can enter. This is why Scripture tells us to take every thought captive. It's about spiritual security at the highest level. On September 23, with the atmosphere charged and distractions knocking louder than usual, locking your spiritual door will be essential. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. When you consciously protect your space, you create an environment where peace can flourish, clarity can grow, and blessings can rest undisturbed. Remember this, a locked door doesn't mean isolation, it means selection. You decide what enters your life, and when you learn to lock your spiritual door, you aren't shutting the world out, you're keeping your destiny safe. As we reach the final part of this message, I want you to take a deep breath and let these truths settle. Everything we've talked about, from the significance of September 23 to the power of doors to the importance of discernment and boundaries, comes down to one simple reminder: you are chosen, and being chosen means your life carries weight. That is why distractions knock louder at your door, why sabotage often comes disguised as kindness, and why your peace is constantly tested. It's not because you're weak, it's because you are valuable. The enemy doesn't waste energy on those going nowhere. He targets the ones carrying light, the ones walking in purpose, the ones who will shift the atmosphere for others. That's you, and that's why vigilance matters, not to live in fear, but to live with awareness. Fear paralyzes, but awareness empowers. When you recognize the patterns, when you discern the traps, you no longer fall victim to them, you rise above them. On September 23, remember this: the door you refuse to open may be the very act that protects your destiny. Not every knock is meant to be answered, not every voice deserves your time, and not every invitation carries truth. Your strength is in your ability to pause, to listen, and to trust the Spirit guiding you. But hear the encouragement: God never calls you to guard your door without also giving you the strength to do it. You are not alone in this. Every prayer you whisper, every boundary you set, every distraction you resist, these are acts of alignment. And alignment always brings blessing. What looks like resistance today will become testimony tomorrow. What feels like a closed door now will lead you to the open gates of destiny later. So as you move forward, hold onto this affirmation: I guard my energy, I protect my peace, I walk in divine timing. Say it, write it, declare it. Let it be a reminder that your life is too precious to be wasted on knocks that don't belong to you. Finally, let this be your call to action. Stay alert, stay strong, and stay encouraged. If this message resonates with you, share it with someone else who might need the reminder. And take a moment to comment below with your affirmation, letting the world know you are standing firm. Because together, when the chosen ones guard their doors, no deception, no distraction, and no sabotage can prevail.